Ambassador Cather had visited the human embassy 3 times that week. Each visit felt stranger than the last. The halls were silent now. For more than 2 centuries, these corridors had been filled with human voices. Loud arguments, awkward jokes, endless debates that somehow turned into friendships. Humans always brought noise with them wherever they went. Now there was nothing. Just empty walls. Empty offices. Empty rooms that still felt like people should be inside them. Cather slowly walked through the main corridor, his claws tapping softly against the polished floor. His eyes moved across the faded rectangles on the walls where human paintings once hung. The artwork was gone. Everything personal was gone. And that was the part that bothered him most. Humans were emotional creatures. Messy creatures. They kept souvenirs. Pictures. Gifts. Little reminders of places and people they cared about. But when they left, they took every single thing that mattered. Nothing remained except furniture and machines. Like an entire species had packed up its soul and walked away. 3 months earlier, every human in the galaxy had vanished overnight. No warning.
No panique. No riots.
No military movements. Just a short message delivered to every government and every major network in Council space. Cather still remembered reading it for the first time. He stopped outside Ambassador Chen's old office and stared through the open doorway. The room looked untouched. The desk was perfectly clean. The computers had been wiped. Only one piece of paper sat in the middle of the desk. Cather already knew every word by memory. Still, he picked it up again. We thank the Galactic Council for the opportunity to participate in galactic civilization. Humanity formally withdraws from all treaties, agreements, and associations effective immediately. We wish all species prosperity in their future endeavors. That was all.
No threats. No demands. No explanation.
Just goodbye. Cather slowly lowered the paper. It made no sense. Humans never did anything quietly. They argued about everything, especially Ambassador Chen. He could still hear her voice echoing through council meetings. You call this fair trade? Maybe try asking smaller species before making decisions for them. Has anyone in this room actually read the treaty? Humans questioned everything. Rules, traditions, authority. Sometimes they were exhausting, but they were alive in a way most species were not. The idea that humanity would simply disappear without a fight felt impossible. Yet that was exactly what happened. And somehow, almost everyone else seemed happy about it. Cather still remembered the emergency council session after the announcement. Chancellor Vexthal of the Corvan Empire had actually smiled. A real smile. His sharp teeth gleamed under the chamber lights as he leaned back in his throne. At last, he had said proudly, we can govern this galaxy without primitive humans interfering in civilized affairs. Many delegates agreed immediately. The Ashanti bureaucrats nodded in approval. The elegant Silith fluttered their wings with relief. Even species that normally defended humanity remained silent. Only Cather felt uneasy. Because something about the situation felt wrong. Very wrong. The Zenthra species had evolved as hunters long before joining galactic civilization. Their instincts were built around noticing patterns. And the pattern here made no sense. How had humanity evacuated trillions of people without anyone noticing? Humans lived everywhere. Core worlds. Mining colonies. Research stations. Trade hubs. Military installations. Thousands of settlements across Council territory. Moving that many people should have taken years. Massive fleets should have filled every trade lane in the galaxy. But sensors detected nothing. No giant convoys. No evacuation traffic. No emergency launches. One day humans were there. The next day, gone. Cather had spent weeks reviewing surveillance footage from dozens of worlds. The recordings disturbed him more every time he watched them. Humans went through their normal routines right up until the final day. They worked jobs, bought food, talked with friends. Nothing unusual.
No preparation.
No signs of departure. Then morning came, and every human was gone. On Corvan Prime alone, nearly 50,000 humans had disappeared in a single night. No ships left orbit. No hidden transports entered the atmosphere. Security systems recorded absolutely nothing. It was as if the entire population had simply ceased to exist. And that was impossible. Cather reached the embassy's central atrium and looked up at the glass ceiling above him. Stars glowed softly in the darkness beyond. Somewhere out there, humanity was hiding. But why? A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. His communicator lit up. Another report. Cather opened it silently. Outer Rim Colony 47. Human settlement confirmed abandoned. No signs of struggle. No bodies found. Infrastructure intact. Cather closed his eyes for a moment. That made 47 confirmed empty colonies. 47. And every report looked exactly the same. The humans had vanished so perfectly it almost felt planned years in advance. That idea sent a chill through him. Maybe it had been. His investigation had uncovered something even stranger. Nobody truly understood how involved humans had become in galactic society. At first glance, their jobs seemed ordinary. Minor positions. Support roles. Administrative work. Nothing important. But the deeper Cather looked, the more disturbing the truth became. Human consultants had coordinated military supply routes for the Corvan Empire. Human technicians maintained critical luminar energy systems. Human programmers designed council data networks. Human shipping firms managed huge portions of galactic trade. Everywhere Cather looked, humans occupied positions that seemed small, yet somehow connected everything together. And no one had noticed. He still remembered confronting Chancellor Vexthal about it. The human advisors in your military, Cather had asked carefully. What exactly did they do? Vexthal dismissed the question instantly. Logistics paperwork, the Chancellor had said with a wave of his claw. Nothing important. But Cather kept digging. Those paperwork advisors had coordinated over 60% of the Corvan military supply system. Without them, entire fleets were already reporting shortages. How had nobody realized this? The same pattern appeared across the galaxy. Humans quietly handled systems that everyone else depended on, while somehow convincing the galaxy they were unimportant. Cather finally reached the embassy exit. Before leaving, he turned for one last look. The building still felt alive somehow. Like humanity had only stepped outside for a moment and would return at any second. He thought about Ambassador Chen again. Their final conversation replayed endlessly in his mind. She had looked tired that day. Not physically tired. Emotionally tired. The council keeps making the same mistake, she had told him quietly. Cather remembered asking what she meant. Chen had stared out the station window for a long moment before answering. People stop appreciating the things that keep working. At the time, he thought she was talking about politics. Now, he wasn't so sure. Cather stepped outside the embassy and sealed the massive doors behind him. The locking systems activated with a deep metallic sound that echoed through the empty corridor. For the first time in 200 years, the human embassy stood abandoned. Cather looked toward the distant council chambers far across the station. Most species believed humanity's departure was good news. A relief. An opportunity. But deep in his instincts, Cather felt something else coming. Something dangerous. Because civilizations did not lose an entire species overnight without consequences. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity was watching. Waiting. And for the first time in his life, Ambassador Cather began to wonder if the galaxy had just made the biggest mistake in its history. 6 months after humanity disappeared, the galaxy began to break. At first, the failures seemed small. Easy to ignore. A delayed shipment here. A damaged power relay there. A few missing supply reports. Nothing serious. But small problems have a way of becoming large ones when nobody understands what is actually holding a system together. General Sector of the Corvan Empire slammed his claws against the metal command table as warning lights flashed across the war room. Red indicators covered the massive holographic display. Fuel shortages. Missing cargo convoys. Ammunition production delays. Entire frontier outposts reporting supply failures. How is this happening? Sector growled. Our military is the most efficient force in the galaxy. No one answered immediately. Around the command center, officers avoided eye contact. Finally, a young logistics analyst stepped forward nervously. Sir, We traced the failures back to the old supply coordination systems. Sektar narrowed his eyes. What systems? The analyst swallowed hard. The human systems. Silence filled the room. Sektar stared at him. What exactly does that mean? The analyst activated a hologram. Dozens of company names appeared in the air. Terran Logistics, Earth Route Dynamics, Human Resource Transport, Sol System Freight Coordination. Small companies. Forgettable names. Most military leaders had barely noticed them before humanity vanished. They handled route optimization, the analyst explained carefully.
Cargo timin.
Emergency rerouting. Fleet distribution planning. Sektar snorted angrily. So find replacements. The analyst hesitated. That's the problem, sir. We don't fully understand how their systems worked. Another officer stepped forward. The humans coordinated 62% of military supply movement across the Empire. Sektar froze. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then the general slowly looked back at the glowing red warnings. 62%. Handled by species they mocked for being primitive. His claws tightened. When were we planning to tell command this? No one answered. Because the truth was simple. Nobody had known. Human systems worked so smoothly that nobody ever questioned them. Until they vanished. And now the entire empire was choking to death without them. But the Corvan Empire was not alone. Across the galaxy, similar failures were spreading. On the Ashanti homeworld, Minister Voltec watched centuries of administrative perfection collapse in real time. Communication systems lagged for hours. Government records vanished randomly. Entire departments stopped functioning because no one understood the software architecture beneath them. Ashanti society depended on order, structure, precision. Without it, panic spread quickly. Our maintenance divisions cannot stabilize the network, one technician reported desperately. The human-designed systems are failing faster than we can repair them. Voltec felt cold. How many humans worked in our administration? 12%, the technician answered. Then replace them. The technician looked horrified. Minister, those 12% maintained almost everything. Voltec slowly sat down. For the first time in his long career, he felt afraid. Meanwhile, on the elegant Silith worlds, a different disaster unfolded. Master artist Selendra stared silently at the unfinished sculpture in her studio. The metal had stopped changing colors. Its once flowing surface now looked dull and lifeless. Her apprentice shifted nervously beside her. The material shipment never arrived, the younger artist whispered. Selendra already knew why. The rare chemical compounds used in advanced Silith artwork came from human synthesis labs. For generations, the Silith believed humans merely exported raw materials. They never bothered learning how those materials were actually created. Now the supply was gone. And no one else knew how to reproduce it. The entire Silith artistic renaissance was collapsing overnight. Across thousands of worlds, the pattern repeated again and again. Systems failed. Industry stalled. Infrastructure weakened. And everywhere, the missing piece was human. But the most frightening discovery came from the Lumina Collective. Unlike most species, the Lumina were beings of pure energy. They considered themselves among the most advanced civilizations in existence. They needed no food, no physical bodies,
No primitive machinery.
or at least, that was what they believed. Prime Lumina Zephyra floated inside the central energy nexus as warning pulses flashed through the chamber. Our grid stability is collapsing, one of his subordinates reported. Overloads are spreading across 17 systems. Zephyra pulsed with disbelief. That is impossible. Our networks have operated perfectly for thousands of years. Another Lumina dimmed uneasily. We discovered something disturbing. A holographic record appeared. Human maintenance reports. Thousands of them. Quietly filed over the last 2 centuries. Tiny adjustments. Minor repairs. Preventive corrections. The humans had been maintaining Lumina infrastructure the entire time. Silently. Without recognition. Without praise. Without even telling the Lumina how serious the risks actually were. Zephyr stared at the records in horror. They understood our systems. Better than we did, another Lumina finished quietly. Back on the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Cather continued his investigation. And every new discovery made him more uncomfortable. Humanity had never behaved like a species seeking power. They rarely demanded authority, rarely threatened anyone, rarely bragged. Instead, they quietly positioned themselves inside the systems nobody else wanted to deal with. Maintenance, logistics, repairs, support work, boring jobs, invisible jobs. But now Cather understood something terrifying. Invisible things often mattered most. He sat across from Sage Moran inside a private observation chamber overlooking the stars. It's like they built themselves into the foundation of civilization, Cather said softly. Moran's glowing form flickered thoughtfully. Perhaps they did. Cather rubbed his forehead. How did nobody notice this? Because humans never asked to be noticed, Moran replied. That answer haunted him. Most species wanted recognition. Humans seemed different. They solved problems quietly, then moved on.
No celebrations. No demands. No speeches.
Just results. Cather thought back to Ambassador Chen again. All those council meetings. All those political battles. And not once had she bragged about humanity's real importance. Not once. Maybe because humans never cared about looking important. Maybe they only cared about keeping things working. The investigation grew darker. A medical report from the Christec worlds revealed catastrophic reproductive decline. For centuries, the silicon-based species had depended on specialized biochemical supplements produced by human laboratories. They thought the supplements were optional health treatments. They were wrong. Without them, birth rates dropped to almost zero. Dr. Zendar of the Christec Medical Council delivered the truth with visible shame. The humans solved the problem 300 years ago, he admitted. They never told us how serious it was. Cather stared at him. You mean your species' survival depended entirely on human medicine? And we never realized it, Zendar whispered. Silence filled the chamber. The implications were horrifying. Humanity had not simply participated in galactic civilization. They had quietly kept it alive. Another hidden dependency. Further investigation made the truth even worse. Human companies had secretly tracked Void Runner activity for decades. They predicted attack patterns.
Mapped danger zone.
Rerouted civilian traffic away from threats before attacks happened. The galaxy believed humans were managing shipping efficiency. In reality, they had been protecting billions of lives. Without them, ships traveled blind into dangerous territory. And the Void Runners knew it. Across the galaxy, civilization continued unraveling. On the hegemon worlds, massive city structures began failing one after another. The hegemon built cities the size of continents. Gigantic machine worlds powered by ancient systems thought to be indestructible. But now sectors were going dark daily. Entire districts collapsed into chaos as energy systems overloaded. Prime Governor Thexmore stared in disbelief as another emergency report appeared. Sector 12 has failed completely. His chief engineer looked exhausted. The cascade spread through 6 neighboring grids before containment. That shouldn't be possible, Thexmore snapped. Our systems have triple redundancies. The engineer lowered his eyes. They worked because human technicians kept correcting small instabilities before they spread. Thexmore went silent. Tiny adjustments. Tiny repairs. Tiny fixes. Things nobody noticed until they stopped happening. That was humanity's true role. Not rulers. Not conquerors. Caretakers. Invisible caretakers for an entire galaxy. Back on the council station, Ambassador Cather stood inside one of the central archives reviewing old human employment records. The deeper he looked, the more terrifying the picture became. Humans were everywhere. Not in leadership positions. Not on thrones. Not commanding fleets. Instead, they existed underneath civilization itself. Engineers, programmers, technicians, mediators, supply coordinators, medical researchers, maintenance workers. Thousands of tiny roles that connected everything together. Individually, each job looked unimportant. Together, they formed the backbone of galactic society. Cather slowly leaned back in his chair. How did we miss this? Sage Moran stood nearby, his glowing form dim with concern. Because they never demanded attention, the ancient being replied softly. Cather shook his head. No species works this hard without wanting power. Moran looked toward the stars beyond the archive windows. Perhaps humans define power differently. That answer stayed with Cather long after the meeting ended. Because the more he studied humanity, the stranger they became. Most advanced species used their superiority openly. The Corvan displayed military dominance. The Ashanti displayed intellectual superiority. The Lumina displayed technological perfection. But humans hid their capabilities. Why? That question haunted him constantly. Then the search missions returned. And everything became even worse. Captain Rexa of the Corvan Exploration Fleet stood before the Emergency Council looking visibly shaken. We searched 17 human colonies, he reported. What did you find? Chancellor Vexthal asked. Rexa hesitated. Nothing. The chamber fell silent. Explain, Vexthal demanded. The worlds are intact, Rexa continued carefully. Cities remain. Infrastructure still functions. Roads, buildings, power systems, everything is there. Then where are the humans? That's the problem, Rexa whispered. There's no evidence humans ever lived there. Confused murmurs spread through the chamber. Rexa activated holographic images from the abandoned colonies. Entire cities appeared. Clean. Silent. Perfectly preserved. But empty in a deeply unsettling way. No family photos.
No personal belongings. No cultural artifacts. No graves.
No records. Nothing. Every trace of human existence had been erased with impossible precision. It feels wrong walking through those places, Rexa admitted. Like visiting a civilization that never actually existed. Cather felt cold. Humanity hadn't simply evacuated. They had erased themselves. Completely. Every computer system discovered on the colonies had been wiped clean. No history.
No archives.
No research files. Nothing but empty operating systems. As if humanity had surgically removed itself from galactic memory. How is that possible? One delegate asked nervously. No one answered. Because nobody knew. And that terrified them. The more they uncovered about humanity, the less human they seemed. Reports flooded in daily about hidden human contributions. Medical systems. Trade networks. Defense protocols. Energy management. Diplomatic negotiations. Even the Galactic Council's communication framework had been originally designed by human engineers. The galaxy had mocked humanity as emotional primitives. Now it appeared those primitives had quietly built modern civilization itself. And then walked away from it. Panic spread across council space. Emergency meetings turned into screaming arguments. Species blamed each other. The Corvan demanded military assistance. The hegemon begged for technical aid. The Christek pleaded for medical support before their species died out completely. But nobody knew how to solve the problems anymore. The humans had taken the answers with them. Cather sat through every emergency session feeling the same growing realization. The galaxy had never truly understood humanity. Not even a little. Then came the moment that shocked everyone. Chancellor Vexthal stood before the full Galactic Council and lowered his head. For a proud Corvan leader, it was almost unthinkable. We need humanity back, he admitted quietly. The chamber fell completely silent. For the first time in history, every species agreed on something. Search fleets were authorized immediately. Unlimited resources. Maximum priority. Find humanity. Beg them to return. Beg them to save civilization. But deep inside, Cather already knew the truth. Humanity had planned this too carefully. Too perfectly. They never intended to be found. Later that night, Cather returned once more to the abandoned human embassy. The station lights dimmed around him as power restrictions spread across the council station. Even here, systems were beginning to fail. The embassy remained strangely stable. Human-built systems still operated flawlessly. Cather walked slowly through the dark halls. And for the first time, he noticed something hidden beneath the silence. The embassy wasn't abandoned carelessly. It had been left intentionally. Like a message. Like a lesson. Humans had taken only what mattered. And left behind proof that everything else had always been temporary. Katha entered Ambassador Chen's office again. He stared at the empty desk for a long time. Then quietly sat down in her old chair. He remembered one conversation from years earlier. A trade dispute. Another pointless council argument. Katha had once asked Chen why humans worked so hard for species that barely respected them. He could still remember her answer perfectly. Because someday, she had said softly, they might learn. At the time, he thought she meant diplomacy. Now, he realized she meant something much bigger. Humanity had never been trying to rule the galaxy. They had been trying to teach it. And when nobody learned, they left. Katha slowly looked out the office window toward the endless stars beyond. Somewhere in that darkness, humanity was watching the civilization they built begin to fall apart. And for the first time, Katha began asking himself a terrifying question. What if humans never planned to come back? 18 months after humanity's departure, Sage Moran discovered the truth. And the truth changed everything. The ancient ethereal floated deep within the meditation chamber beneath the Galactic Council Station. Streams of light moved around his glowing form as he connected his consciousness to the remaining galactic data networks. For weeks, he had searched through damaged archives, broken systems, hidden records, fragments of information everyone else overlooked. At first, he was searching for humanity. Instead, he found something far more disturbing. By the time he emerged from meditation, his energy form flickered violently with exhaustion. He immediately called for an emergency council session. The remaining delegates gathered inside the great chamber, their faces worn from months of crisis and failure. Half the seats were empty now. Some species no longer existed. Others were too busy trying to survive to attend. Ambassador Katha sat quietly near the center, watching Moran carefully. He had never seen the ancient sage look afraid before. Moran floated slowly into the center of the chamber. When he finally spoke, his voice echoed with unusual heaviness. I have discovered why humanity left. Silence filled the room instantly. Chancellor Vexthal leaned forward. Then tell us. Moran's glowing form dimmed slightly. Humanity did not leave because they hated us. Confused murmurs spread through the chamber. They did not leave because they were angry, Moran continued. And they did not leave because they wanted revenge. Katha frowned. Then why? Moran looked around the chamber slowly before answering. They left because we never learned how to stand on our own. The room erupted immediately. That's absurd. We built civilization long before humans arrived. We are not children. Moran raised his voice for the first time in centuries. Yes, he thundered. And yet you collapsed the moment they disappeared. Silence. Painful silence. Moran continued more quietly. For 3 centuries, humanity quietly supported galactic civilization from the shadows. He activated a series of holographic records, military systems, trade networks, energy grids, medical databases. Every image showed hidden layers of human involvement. The Corvan military, Moran explained, relied on tactical algorithms designed by human strategists. Vexthal's expression darkened. The Ashanti bureaucracy depended on human adaptive management systems. Minister Voltek lowered his eyes. The Lumina energy network survived because human technicians constantly corrected hidden instabilities. Prime Lumina Zephyra flickered weakly. The Silith artistic renaissance relied entirely on human material science. Master Cylindra sat frozen in silence. Moran slowly looked across the chamber. Every species believed humanity was merely participating in civilization. His form brightened, but humanity was maintaining it. The weight of those words crushed the room. Katha felt cold realization spreading through him. Humanity had not been junior members of galactic society. They had been its hidden foundation. And nobody noticed. Moran continued. Humans did not conquer other species. They improved them. New holograms appeared. Human engineers helping Corvan tacticians redesign military logistics. Human analysts improving Ashanti administration. Human researchers stabilizing Christech biology. Human diplomats quietly preventing wars before they began. They made every civilization stronger, Moran said softly. But they did it quietly, without demanding recognition. Cather finally understood why humanity always seemed everywhere and nowhere at the same time. They never stood above civilization. They stood underneath it, supporting it, holding it together, helping everyone become better versions of themselves. And now, that support was gone. Captain Rexer then stepped forward with another report from the abandoned human worlds. His face looked pale. "We've completed scans of 47 colonies," he said carefully. "The findings are consistent everywhere." "What findings?" Cather asked. Rexer swallowed hard. The humans restored entire worlds back to their original state. Confused whispers spread through the chamber. Rexer activated new images. Massive human cities. Then another image of the same location after humanity left. Forests. Oceans. Mountains untouched by civilization. Gasps filled the chamber. "They dismantled everything," Rexer whispered. "Every structure. Every mine. Every colony." He looked visibly disturbed. It's as if they erased themselves from history. The realization hit everyone at once. Humanity possessed technology advanced enough to completely remove their presence from entire planets. Yet for centuries, they pretended to be ordinary. Moran's voice grew softer. They could have ruled the galaxy easily. No one argued, because now everyone believed it. Humanity had hidden its true capabilities the entire time, not because they were weak, but because they chose not to dominate others. Cather slowly stood. "Why?" he asked quietly. "If they were truly this advanced, why hide?" Moran looked toward the stars above the chamber ceiling. "Because humans understood something we never did." The chamber remained completely silent. "True strength is not control," Moran said. "It is responsibility." Those words hit Cather harder than anything else he had heard. Humanity had possessed the power to rule everyone. Instead, they chose service, maintenance, protection, quiet sacrifice. They carried civilization without demanding worship for it. And eventually, they realized the galaxy had become dependent on them. Moran turned back toward the council. "They left because we stopped solving our own problems." Pain filled his voice. "They stayed for centuries hoping we would learn to work together, hoping we would become stronger. But instead," he looked around the chamber sadly, "we allowed them to carry everything for us." Nobody spoke, because deep down, everyone knew he was right. The galaxy had become comfortable, lazy, dependent, and humanity finally decided to let civilization face the consequences. Cather thought about Ambassador Chen again. Her tired expression. Her quiet frustration. Now he understood it completely. She had spent her entire career helping species who never realized how much humans sacrificed for them. And she knew one day humanity would leave. The realization hurt more than Cather expected. Not because humanity abandoned them, but because maybe they had every right to. Moran delivered one final revelation before ending the session. Humanity left behind hidden systems across the galaxy. The delegates looked up immediately. "What kind of systems?" Vexthal asked. "Educational systems," Moran replied. The chamber fell silent again. Every human-designed structure contains simplified frameworks meant to be studied and improved by other species. Cather blinked. "You mean?" Moran nodded slowly. "They were teaching us." That changed everything. The maintenance systems, the infrastructure, the networks. None of it had been designed only to function. It had been designed to help others learn. Humanity had spent centuries quietly preparing civilization to survive without them. But nobody paid attention. Nobody bothered learning. Because humans always fixed everything before failure happened. And now, the galaxy was paying the price for its arrogance. The emergency session ended without celebration.
No speeches. No arguments.
Only silence. As delegates slowly left the chamber, Cather remained behind alone. He stared at the empty seat where Ambassador Chen once Saturday. For the first time since humanity vanished, he no longer felt anger, only shame, because humanity never wanted gratitude. They only wanted the galaxy to grow, and the galaxy failed them. Cather looked out through the giant chamber windows toward the endless sea of stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was waiting, watching, hoping, not for civilization to beg for rescue, but for civilization to finally become worthy of standing beside them. And for the first time in many months, Cather wondered if maybe there was still a chance point 2 years after humanity disappeared. The Galactic Council was dying. Ambassador Cather sat alone inside the massive council chamber, listening to the quiet hum of failing systems echo through the dark room. Half the lights no longer worked. Entire sections of the station had been sealed after power failures spread through the lower levels. Even the air felt colder now. Empty seats surrounded him in every direction. The Christek representative was gone. His species had officially gone extinct 3 months earlier. The hegemon delegation stopped attending after their planetary grid collapsed beyond repair. Several outer colonies had vanished completely after repeated Void Runner attacks. What remained of galactic civilization looked exhausted, broken, and afraid. Cather slowly looked toward the empty chair where Ambassador Chen once sat today. It still hurt seeing it. Not because humanity left, but because now he finally understood why. A soft mechanical sound echoed through the chamber doors. Sage Moran entered quietly, his glowing form dimmer than before. Even the ancient ethereal seemed tired now. "You're here early," Moran said softly. Cather gave a weak smile. "I couldn't sleep." Neither of them mentioned the obvious truth. Almost nobody slept anymore. The galaxy lived in constant uncertainty. Every day brought another disaster, another collapse, another reminder that humanity had been carrying far more weight than anyone realized. Cather reached into his robes and removed a small crystal device. Simple, transparent, barely larger than his palm. Moran immediately recognized it. "The human artifact," he whispered. Cather nodded slowly. It had been discovered 1 month earlier deep inside the station's maintenance core, hidden behind old access panels no one had opened in decades. At first, technicians believed it was just another forgotten data storage device. But when they activated it, everything changed. Cather turned the crystal carefully in his hands. Inside it were human engineering blueprints, life support systems, energy frameworks, environmental controls. Nothing flashy, nothing military, just practical systems designed to help civilization survive. But attached to the files was a single message. A message Cather had memorized instantly. He quietly repeated it aloud. "When you are ready to build something better than what came before." His voice lowered slightly. "You will know how to find us." Silence filled the chamber.
No coordinates. No instructions.
No demand for apology. Just hope. Moran floated closer. "I believe they expected this outcome." Cather nodded slowly. They knew civilization would collapse without them. "Yes," Moran replied. "But they also believed we could learn from it." Cather stared down at the crystal. That was the part that haunted him most. Even after leaving, humanity was still trying to help. Not by returning. Not by rescuing everyone, but by giving the galaxy one final chance to stand on its own. Outside the chamber windows, ships drifted slowly around the damaged council station. Most were repair vessels now. Emergency transports. Supply carriers. Civilization no longer expanded. But something had started changing recently. Something small. And fragile. Yet important. The surviving species had finally begun cooperating. Really cooperating. Not through politics. Not through treaties. Through necessity. Lumina energy specialists worked beside Corvin engineers. Ascendi analysts shared research openly with Silith designers. Military leaders helped rebuild civilian infrastructure. For the first time in galactic history, species stopped competing long enough to solve problems together. And strangely, that was exactly how humans always worked. Cather suddenly realized something. Humanity never specialized the way other species did. Most civilizations focused on one strength. Va. Science. art, administration. But humans learned a little about everything. They adapted constantly. They connected ideas between different fields. More importantly, they listened to each other. That was their real advantage. Not superior intelligence. Not advanced technology. Cooperation. Humans solved problems together. And over centuries, they quietly tried teaching the galaxy to do the same. Nobody listened until they vanished. A sudden chime interrupted Cather's thoughts. Moran looked surprised as a station technician rushed into the chamber. His breathing was uneven. Ambassador. Sage. You need to see this. Minutes later, they arrived at one of the lower engineering sectors. A crowd of scientists and technicians surrounded a newly restored energy core. Cather immediately recognized Dr. Velta, the young Ashanti researcher who had spent months studying the human crystal designs. She looked exhausted, but excited. It worked, she whispered. Cather stared at the stabilized reactor. That's impossible.
No, Velta replied softly.
It's human. She activated a holographic display. The new energy system combined multiple technologies together. Lumina efficiency patterns. Corvin reinforcement structures. Ashanti adaptive controls. Silith interface design. Different species. Different strengths. Working together inside one unified system. Cather slowly looked around the room. For the first time in years, he saw something unfamiliar in people's faces. Not fear. Not desperation. Purpose. We finally understood the lesson, Velta said quietly. Moran's glowing form brightened slightly. Yes, the ancient sage whispered. I believe we did. More reports arrived over the following weeks. Joint colonies forming. Shared research programs expanding. Young engineers studying human systems together instead of separately. Civilizations were still struggling. Many worlds remained in ruins. Some species would never recover. But slowly, the survivors began building something new. Not a galaxy dependent on hidden caretakers. A galaxy learning to care for itself. One evening, Cather returned alone to the abandoned human embassy one final time. Dust covered parts of the empty halls now. But the building still stood strong. Human construction. Reliable until the end. Cather entered Ambassador Chen's office quietly. He sat at her old desk and looked out toward the stars beyond the station. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, softly, I think we finally understand. The empty office gave no answer. But somehow, it didn't feel empty anymore. Cather reached into his robes and placed the human crystal gently onto Chen's old desk. A symbol. A promise. Then he stood and walked toward the exit. As the embassy doors opened, light from the station corridor spilled into the dark hallway for the first time in months. Behind him, the silent human embassy remained exactly as humanity left it. Waiting. Patient. Like teachers expecting students to eventually return with the right answer. Cather stopped before the doors closed completely. Then he looked back one last time. Wherever you are, he whispered quietly. Thank you. The doors sealed shut. Outside the station windows, stars stretched endlessly across the darkness. Somewhere among them, humanity was watching. Not as rulers. Not as gods. But as something far greater. The species that taught the galaxy what civilization was truly supposed to mean. And for the first time since humanity vanished, the future no longer felt hopeless. Because the galaxy had finally started learning the lesson humans tried to teach all along. The strongest civilizations are not built by those who seek power. They are built by those willing to carry others until everyone learns how to stand together.